Alan asked an interesting question about what would happen if every human suddenly disappeared from Earth and how long artificial lights would continue to work. Most lights would stop very quickly because major power grids need people to operate them and supply fuel. Fossil fuel power plants would shut down first, causing a chain reaction that would collapse the entire grid within hours or days. Nuclear power plants have a lot of fuel, but they are designed to shut down automatically if something goes wrong, so without humans, they would also stop soon after the grid fails. Some remote places that use diesel generators could keep their lights on for days or months until the fuel runs out. Geothermal power plants might work for a few years, but without maintenance, corrosion and mechanical problems would stop them. Wind turbines could last longer because they need little maintenance, but eventually their gearboxes would fail. Hydroelectric dams might run for several years on automatic systems, but blocked intakes and mechanical failures would shut them down too. Battery-powered lights would slowly lose their charge and likely stop working within a few decades. Solar-powered systems would probably last the longest because they don't need fuel and are built for remote areas. In dry places with little dust, they could keep working for up to a century. But the very last artificial light might come from radioactive nuclear waste, which can glow blue due to Cherenkov radiation. A radioactive element like cesium-137 decays slowly, so even after hundreds of years it would still glow faintly. That means the last human-made light on Earth could be a dim blue glow deep inside nuclear waste storage vaults, centuries after humans are gone. Even after artificial lights finally fade away, Earth would not be completely dark. The moon would still reflect sunlight at night, and stars would shine as they always have. Cities would slowly be taken over by plants, animals, and weather, and the sky would become much darker and clearer without light pollution. Over time, satellites in orbit would stop working and fall back to Earth, and space stations would slowly drift and burn up in the atmosphere. In the long run, nature would fully reclaim human structures and the planet would return to a much more natural state. The last traces of human technology would eventually rust, decay, or be buried, leaving only geological and faint radioactive signals as evidence that humans were ever here. Over thousands of years, most human-made structures would collapse. Skyscrapers would fall as metal rusts and concrete cracks, bridges would break apart, and roads would be covered by soil and vegetation. Forests would grow back in many places, and animals would spread into former cities. Dams would eventually fail, releasing rivers to their natural paths and reshaping landscapes. In a few million years, only a few traces of humanity would remain, such as plastic buried in sediments, unusual metal deposits, and radioactive materials locked deep underground. From far in the future, the planet would look almost completely natural again, with only subtle clues that an advanced civilization once lived here. In the extremely distant future, even those last traces of humanity would slowly disappear. Plate tectonics would move continents, burying cities and landfills deep underground, mountains would rise and erode, oceans would change shape, and coastlines would shift. Plastics and metals would break down into tiny particles or become part of new rocks. Radioactive materials would decay into stable elements, losing their dangerous energy over tens of thousands to millions of years. After hundreds of millions of years, over purporting up by, it would be very hard for anyone to tell that humans ever existed, except for strange fossil layers and unusual chemical signatures in the rocks. Earth would continue on, full of life, as if humanity had only been a brief moment in its long history. Far beyond that, in billions of years, the Earth itself will change in ways no human could stop. The sun will slowly grow hotter and brighter, eventually making the planet too warm for most life. Oceans will evaporate, the atmosphere will change, and complex organisms may disappear. In the very far future, the sun will expand into a red giant, possibly swallowing the inner planets or burning Earth into a lifeless rock. By then, every trace of humanity, cities, technology, lights, and even radioactive signals will be completely gone. The Earth will be just another quiet world in space, and the story of humans will exist only in the deep history written in atoms and starlight. After the sun's red giant phase, it will shed its outer layers and leave behind a small, dense white dwarf star. Earth, if it still exists, would be a cold, dark, burned-out planet orbiting a fading star. The universe itself will keep expanding, galaxies will drift apart, and stars will slowly die out. In trillions of years, even most stars will be gone, leaving a universe filled with darkness, cold gas, and faint radiation. By that time, not only humans, but nearly all traces of planets, stars, and galaxies will have changed or disappeared, and the universe will move toward a quiet, dark future.